Alrighty guys, good evening. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. Tonight we're going to cover the usual. Happy Sun Mon, guys. Hope you guys, well, not even remotely prepared for Christmas this year, guys. I really just don't even want to deal with it. I mentioned that before. Start getting my gifts in the mail and it just feels like when you don't actually put any thought into getting gifts, it actually just feels really shitty. To be perfectly honest, when you don't actually give a shit about what you're doing. One second, guys. But yeah. Got some of my gifts in the mail, and it just kind of feels like super generic. Some people are perfectly happy with buying stuff. Like the best things you can get are like disposable gifts, things that are consumed, not disposable, consumable gifts. And those are pretty rare, depending on the person, especially if they don't have hobbies. People without hobbies, I do not understand. You have to have a hobby. It has to be something that you do and you enjoy. Morning, Pro. But there's a lot of people that just don't. They just don't do it. They don't do anything. They just watch TV. Like, that's it. Not even good TV. They just watch anything that's on TV, and then they work. And that's, like, their life. And it's extremely difficult. Like, you wonder why people go crazy and they end up with dementia. Well, it's not the only reason. There's actual physical reasons that happens. But, you know, like, just like people not exercising their brain is definitely part of the problem. And there are plenty of people that just literally just watch TV and that's all they do. Anything that's non-interactive where you don't actually put any thought into what you do, or you just turn off your brain, and like life continues on without you. So one thing we're going to do tonight before I cover the Reddits here is Pro is going to be one of my editors. Not really doing anything fancy, not making videos for YouTube or anything. However, making some highlights that I don't do myself that I really should be doing. So I'm going to give them the lowdown right now. Because they have weird hours, and this is one of the few times that they're available. So, before I get started here, I'm just going to make a little tutorial about what I want to have done on my stream, and then they can ruin my videos. I don't do my... I'm sure. Favorite part about giving people permissions. The weird thing about Twitch is I can't just give them permissions to make highlights. I got to give them permissions for everything, so they could just delete everything on my channel. Super unprofessional. But, you know, if someone gets angry enough at you, they can do that. But that being said, I don't really like keep anything. Like I don't really upload anything to YouTube anymore. I used to. I don't really do that anymore. Mainly because I stopped making highlights. Felt like after you start watching enough people, like you just kind of like highlights don't really. You don't feel like you're doing anything special if you watch enough channels. It just kind of takes away from the like what you do on your own channel. It's actually kind of one of the downsides. If you stream a lot, just watching channels just ruins your ability to stream. Because then you just actively compare yourself to other people, like with Fortnite, for instance, just never able to do what some of the people with low pings can do, and that I eventually found out was a lot to do with latency. Anyways, let's see. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Never actually made anyone an editor. Let's see. Know where to do it in the account page. I can give you your own personal nickname in chat. That's kind of weird. Let's see. Hmm. It's actually been a while since I banned anyone in my chat. Kind of weird, since like July. Hmm. Channel settings, channel role. For content. Permissions, channels you can manage as an editor. People who can stream to your channel. Let's see. Twitch editor. I know where to find it. I'm just trying to see if there's a way to edit permissions. What editors can actually. Event manager. There's like all these parts of Twitch that just no one ever uses, myself included. Like hidden or obtuse or just something that they launch and then they just never follow up with. Make sure you know them pretty well. Okay. Editors have the ability to run commercials and create highlights all while you're streaming. Your editor can also host channels once you're done streaming. Change the title of your stream and move your channel to a different game. You trust them. This is one, like, why can't you set permissions? Why do you have to give them basically all the permissions in the world? That's what I don't get. Why isn't there an in-between role where I can pick and choose what permissions they have? You don't have access to your personal information preferences, though. Only dashboard functionality, which is a good thing. You have great permissions in general. Okay, well. Sure, nothing bad will come of this, so. Okay. All right. Try Typing Pro. Should actually notify you. Would it actually be nice if I could actually see what an editor can see, because I'm not an editor on any channels. Their dashboard. Just in here. It should give you a badge. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I have to reload my chat. Try typing again. Try typing anything again. Everything's okay. Can't seem to find anything editing channels. Stream name despite being an editor for it. Link is in your dashboard. Under permissions tab on the left, it will list channels that you have editor on. Oh, no, it's not working. Let's try this then. You might actually have to... Speaking of shit that they put in Twitch that they don't really ever completely comb out. It's supposed to actually give you an editor, like a badge. It doesn't give you a badge. Try going there. See what happens. You should be able to access that because I gave you permissions, unless I didn't save something. No, it says it's saved. Yay, I'm a partner, guys. Woo! Oh. Yeah. Unless I just gave someone else. Think he's seen something fancy. It should probably just look identical to my own dashboard. Rather not show you guys my dashboard, but I guess you can change everything. Why can't I set access to panels or things that I want you to change? It doesn't let me do anything. You gotta be fucking kidding me. I don't have my dashboard normally open, simply because I use a pop-out chat, because the dashboard sometimes there's bugs dealing with it, and it can cause your computer to lag. Just like, you know, explode. So, can you take a picture of, like, what you see? Like, take, if you guys don't know, there's snipping tool built into Windows. You open it, you click new, and then you can just, like, highlight a square and take a shot. It's much easier to take screenshots. But what I want to see is on the left side under dashboard, what panels you have access to. I feel like everything is fragile. Yeah, because you're gonna break all my shit? Okay. Good. Yeah, this is what apparently growing as a streamer feels like. I feel exposed. So I want to see specifically the strip on the left side, the dashboard, down to settings, like everything on there. I want to see what categories you have access to. Yeah, not the dashboard itself, just the column on the left side. Assume if you have access to any of those tabs, you're going to have access to the stuff in the tabs. And it could just be that editors can just do everything except stream to my channel, which is kind of ridiculous. Oh, there's a history. Oh, I can see stuff that other people change. Well, that's kind of nice. It's called activity, though. I wonder if you can just clip stuff and maybe you don't even need to be an editor. You clip it and then I could just turn it into a highlight. That'd work too. Yeah. How would I do this? Let me find someone else's channel here. Oh, you don't get everything then. Interesting. It doesn't give you this. Does it give you stats? There's chat. So it gives you live events, video producer, and collections. Interesting. Doesn't give you clips either. That's kind of weird. Oh, a clip maxes out at 60 seconds. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah. Huh. Gator Camp. Ah, well, make sure you check out Creator Camp at the bottom. That tells you how to do everything. Hee hee, I'm a streamer. I'm a streamer too. Don't network simply because you're supposed to. Do it to create long-lasting, real relationship. Yeah. Yeah, people don't network for business. No, sir. No, sir. Don't create someone else's content, create yours, do something that shows who you are, and do it as well as you can. I'll play games. I'm going to stream myself. Good night. Never heard that on my channel ever. That's bullshit, by the way. They're eating anyways. Dashboard. I think most of it's my YouTube player. Hey Sanjo, good morning, dude. Holy fuck. Yeah, the dashboard uses 12% of my CPU. Are you fucking shitting me, Twitch? What the fuck? Yeah, well, we checked that out again. Good. To make sure, you know, I wasn't missing out on anything there. I wasn't. I wonder, I think it's actually the built-in player. What happens if I stop the video preview? It's actually probably just a video preview. It's fucking around with my computer. Yeah. Let's see. So, what I'm looking for, because in particular, what I'm looking for you to highlight is on, let's see, I shouldn't have closed that tab with what you can see. If I can go and take a look particularly at. Live events video producer. Okay. So go into video producer, and then if you look at the end of my last clips, or my clips in general, you can see my clips here. It shows muted audio because I play music at the beginning of my stream. But generally speaking, that's only when I'm not talking, because if I start talking, it interrupts the music, and then it doesn't identify it as being copyright infringement material, so then it doesn't get muted. I think I can show this on stream. Where to start? So I'm behind on highlights. Honestly, I should have been way back in the day for highlighting. Ideally, each stream has at least one highlight, which is at the beginning. My highlights are particular. I'm not looking for game content. I'm looking for podcast content. So let's just turn off the music here. So if you look here at my recent highlights and uploads, I think you can see these. Yeah. Is it in the producer? All videos. Yeah, you can scroll down to just highlights. And the series I'm starting is called On. And in particular, you'll see the syntax here is basically the topic matter, although there isn't always 3 topics. But basically the things I talk about the most, all 3 things that I talk about the most, biggest topics. And then... So, this doesn't have my info. Oh, there it is. Some stuff to take care of. Unfortunately, you're making up excuses. Yeah. But basically, what you're looking for here is the start of my stream. After I have an intro with just some music, so people have time to join the stream before I start the podcast segment. And podcast segment lasts anywhere from 30 to 3 hours, 30 minutes to 3 hours. Basically, it's at the beginning of the stream. It's the topic where I talk about content, like current events, relevant information, things that are happening, video game development in particular. This one was about BlizzCon trailers, AMD conference, and Overwatch revitalization, meaning they're trying to change up Overwatch and, you know, be a little bit clever with the things that you add into it so people have an idea what they're looking for. And then you can actually write a description. However, just getting this in particular here is a big deal. Like, actually having the title here. Like, it doesn't even show. That's kind of weird that it doesn't even show the description. But anyways, just give people a little bit of a synopsis of what's happening in the segment. But honestly, if you just get the big three up here, and like if you're looking to skimp on like watching the actual videos or whatever, just getting the big three of what I talked about and covered. But podcasts don't happen every day. Sometimes I just cover Reddits, and sometimes I don't even say anything relevant when I cover Reddits. So there might be some days where I'm not even making basically a podcast segment, and you don't need to highlight those. It's just the areas in particular with actual like meaningful conversation in it. I usually copy Reddit anyways, or not copy cover Reddit anyways, and then it's larger than it actually is. So it looks like everything waddles around. Over the last week or so, I played a lot of HOTS. Or 2 weeks after I came back from my trip, I played a fuck ton of HOTS. And the pathfinding in that game is sometimes a lot to be desired. Like you'll click one area, and then your character will turn around and go in the opposite direction. So we covered trailers here from BlizzCon. We talked about the new releases of BlizzCon. Looked at some cosplay, super sexy cosplay. Talked to Dad Kaplan. By the way, Donald, what's his last name again? Donald from Activision. I always wondered who Kaplan was at Activision, but there's Donald something or other at Kaplan or at Activision. It's definitely 100% another hero. It's a support character at Epic. As we covered trailers here, yada yada yada. Basically, the podcast ends when I go in to actually play games. Then it just turns into normal content. But so if we look at one here, if I use it as an example, basically the syntax is on, which is the name of the podcast. Fix my chair. Right there, on, and then semicolon followed by 3 topics, the biggest ones that I talk about, or just, if there's only 2, you can be a little bit creative too. If there's only 2 or 1 topic matter in particular that I talk about, then you can just list that. And then, like I said, make a little synopsis at the bottom here. But let's do one of these as an example here for what to do. This was from... I can date these? November 8th. So I'm like a month behind. That's not that bad. Anyways, so November 8th. I think that's actually when I made it. It doesn't actually list... If you look at the video producer and you scroll back to November 8th, yeah. Videos. Yeah, that's right after my Europe trip, so there isn't anything further back besides the highlights further back than there. So, November 8th. And then November 9th. Take a look at this. Click highlight. Warcraft. There's millions of people that... Their reward. That'd be great, but can't, especially because I do actually main game going forward unless it's happy third. Unfortunately, there isn't really anything for time controls here. Blizzard's always been kind of... Not Blizzard, Twitch has always been kind of craptastic with their video editing controls. Or anything. It's happy Thursday. Happy Thursday night. Oh yeah? And then sometimes it just craps out in general. Contact. So 1440, let's say. Contact. Podcast. Oh, make sure it's in the right category. Sometimes I'm in the wrong category when I start the clip out. So make sure it's in the talk shows and podcast category. Jazz. I get to play. How long is this? Well, this might not even be covering anything useful. So. For Blackout Reddit. Is there a special Reddit for Blackout? Yeah, nothing in particular here. So this isn't worth it. Let's see, that was dying horribly. You can usually tell. You can usually tell if it's actually worth looking at, depending on whether or not I talk for more than like 20 or 30 minutes. That is precisely why women want nothing to do with it. What the fuck is this? Who the fuck wrote this? Holy shit. How do you even come up with this shit? Huh. In a couple weeks. And we're looking for new graphics designers. Game set to 4 cores by default, except it doesn't. I have a 6-core processor and it's using all 6 cores even though it's set for 4. Why I'm kind of hesitant to change the setting. There's an That's a concept. All right, yeah, you nailed that. Never been done before. I've noticed sometimes my front right speaker, like it seems like my microphone has a connection issue or something, but it only happens on occasion. Times. I only hear it in the playback. I don't hear it when I'm talking on my computer. This might be another one. Some of these, especially because you're going back in time, you don't need to like cover all these, especially because it's kind of this is a ways back. Let's try this one. November 15th? No, November 10th. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Evangelion. Series Gundam. So, this is on anime. I'm gonna include stuff that's still airing. Sometimes people in chat will get me distracted, and then they'll talk about things that they've been talking about. Can't wildcard that? Alright. Happy Saturday, guys. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. A good evening. Nadia, Nazuka, the Valley. Watch the new version of this. This is on my to watch list. Morning. It's like about her. Obviously, you grew up around war. It takes a little bit to understand why this recommendation is on the list here, but I think if you are in the right, read the review here, it's still very pertinent. But he actually ruins the anime. Like this side character and his development over the course of the series is actually pretty good. Yep. Animation quality is top notch. Yes, it is. It is very top notch. Like a text talked a lot about anime. Like Fortnite, or by latency on Fortnite. So. Moving on. Before the whole Spacey thing came out, like I don't think I can handle her doing that. It feels too wrong, for lack of a better word. Not that women can't be in power, but acting. Talking about like, House of Cards. Guy that knows everything, knows all the cards, and has like fits of rage, and is a very particular role that Spacey fit into. And like I don't think I can handle her. It's like I almost don't want to watch the current season, even though it's out, and I. For his medkit key. With like probably one of the best netcode is Battlefield, even if it's not a great game. Their technology is great. Their netcode is fucking great. When I was playing Battlefront hardcore, I had almost no problems with the netcode of nicks in their armor. Major patch will have some pretty fundamental changes to the game client. You could talk the number of backend changes you're putting in is substantial enough that we can't just. Some of the stuff is dated too, so like, if I'm talking about patch information, you have to basically include the patch number. This is a while back. It's from November 10th. Client will fully reinstall itself. Single player engine. Games like the and what just happened around him to actually kind of, which I guess you could say is a skill set, but it should really be audio. Like you can hear like up and down is a thing in real life, as well as occlusion, being able to hear behind things, stuff happening behind it, or Doppler effects. There's a lot of little clues in real life, and you can argue that the inferences to learn how to use sound in a video game is its own crude skill set, because it is not the way it should be. And once again, Epic, you should hammer that out, like it on their face, and that's what they're doing. But anyways, such a weird moment. Ninja proceeded to talk about somebody who is following them, and Logic talked about his chair. It was kind of the perfect encapsulation of what each person was about and why they. Talking about streamer, or not just streamer, but personal ego, and how it weighs on your ability to communicate with people. Resources, not experience. But just let if these guys had SSDs, it would just make that insanely better. If you should be followed by a copy of the config.ini text. This is the end. Basically, this is talking about tweaking Black Ops, but this is before I started the game. Checks the save date of the file. It's fucking weird. Games. All games. Like, because consoles are not. Console Overwatch is such a fast-paced experience. End up with people just running around with just like stuff that just auto clicks like a turret or something, and they just own everyone. Balancing on console is completely different than balancing on PC, especially for a game like Overwatch. And they should always be balanced differently, but they didn't do that. They tried to balance them both the same. No matter what, changing the file. Checks the save date of the games. Oh, let me check your server, Epic. 42 ms. It hasn't changed at all. Okay. So 317. 17. Oh, that's when I'm done talking and start up game. So if we're looking at content here, a lot to talk on anime. As a discussion of anime that I find enjoyable, best anime. Let's cover the Reddits, guys. Good anime and video game development. Yes, I've watched that. Ultraviolence, I'm sure. Yeah, obviously up your alley. See, and then they bitch about Bloom. Let's see. Better to be like, you can be a little bit more particular or descriptive with your titles too. It's just like if it's starting to fall under like a general umbrella of things that I'm talking about. Surf the matrix in a game, finding things that you can do to actually help you along, even though it's not the way the game's programmed. And I'm not talking specifically about exploits. For instance, vaulting in Black Ops almost always will get you killed, but you can find the exact right spot to jump in so you won't vault. There's vaulting in Call of Duty. Battlefield 2, and if you find exactly the right time to jump, you can actually jump, not click out of my right speakers really top of what you're doing, but you have to hit it exactly perfectly. It's probably not pixel perfect, but it's one of those things where you have to basically feel things out in the game, and it's not intuitive, and it's not something they teach you in the game. There's no HRTF in the game, very important. And then once again, just they haven't added another provider. They're still using AWS. They haven't added Azure or whatever kind of third-party
let's do recommended anime.
Cloud service. They haven't added it. So at the end of the day, I'm still being put onto a 40ms server in a game that's very much about latency, and that gets me killed, and I rage, and then I talk about it for hours on end. Anyways, at the end of the day, even though Epic's done a stellar job, they still got these kind of nicks in single-player games. It was a while before I covered Reddits, and then your engine and the unreal thing that's happening to the game. If you have people from YouTube, they just kind of like they pick and choose what they actually show off. Whereas Twitch, you have to always keep going with things, and it just leads like this looks like a normal gamer just doing his thing. He's just sitting on the couch playing games, trying to do his shtick, and I'm sure that people will just cut it. They'll cut it at the end there, you know. His producer will cut it, and they'll make a nice YouTube video out of it. But like if you watch it live, it just doesn't click. Anyways, interesting article. But yeah. Optimization patch by Blizzard of like light transmission comes out, which is basically what fiber is anyways, and even with fiber, like, you know, routers just don't route fast enough, and you still get like delays the further you go away. So like it's impossible, even at the speed of light. Bad, you never finish them. Blah, 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 blah. 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 They want the money bag, you know, they want the money train like Epic has. They have to keep going to town with fixing stuff. In PUBG, with Blue mod, just kind of just figure out guys that they had working on EX.
Let's see.
I bet you can find them. Like people that were actually good with like sound cards and like with sound in particular, and with hardware acceleration, you know, like things that actually get me hard, you know. Like we're talking about, like, even though you don't have like the old EAX and you don't have accelerated sound on.
Not feeling very creative tonight. What's a good
sound because graphics have evolved and it's a giant parallel processing machine. You know, a GPU, a compute engine.
A creator ego, but
physics, and even though physics kind of
like anyone important.
Like you had one company leading the charge, and then NVIDIA bought Agia, and then just like turned into a droopy dick, and you had creative leading the charge with EAX, you know, Trump
people.
holding the banner high.
There you go. Let's go with that for ego. Recommended anime, Game Lancy, and important people.
Arsenal, and then Mike.
This is easier to do off stream too when people aren't watching me. I don't know why. Like there's no way. I've seen some people code when they've been streaming, like actually type code, and there's no way, absolutely no way. I couldn't write on stream either. Like if I'm trying to write something good. There's no way I could write on stream. Having everyone write, watch every little nugget that you put out, every little horrible thing you say. And, you know, before you go back and, you know, edit it and redo it 1,000 times so it looks nice. Okay. So let's go with this, and normally it doesn't take this long. So describe this episode of On covers our favorite subjects of video game development, anime, lots of anime discussion, and a little bit about the mindset of important people and the game they play when they interact with each other. This is something a little thought-provoking. It doesn't need to be... doesn't need to be super spot on. You don't need to watch the whole thing, and of course you don't need to watch everything. Not every day is going to have a highlight from the beginning of the stream. Some days I'll just cover the Reddits and I won't say anything important, and then you don't need to highlight it. Some days I'll use Reddit as kind of a stepping stone for further discussions, though. So it's not really that big of a deal if I was gonna say not really that big of a deal if you don't cover it, but rather you don't need to have like an in-depth description of what's going on, because generally speaking, the people that want to watch my podcast segment will watch it anyways. But if you have like the main topic matter, that's generally something if people find it interesting, then you know they'll be more likely to watch the highlight. Mainly, there's a lot of people that just watch my stream for the beginning of my stream, and then they don't really watch the gameplay, or they just kind of trail off while I'm playing the games or whatever. So as long as you get the main. Make sure you follow the syntax, and then it doesn't need to be 3. Sometimes it can be 2. 2 topics. Sometimes it might just be one big topic. Sometimes you can be a little bit more descriptive with the title of the topic, too. But you get the idea. And talking third person here, and as if you're just being a professional talking about whatever topic matter I'm discussing, right? But yeah, sometimes I'll be Reddit, so if I have Reddits open and all I'm doing is covering Reddit, don't use that as... don't take that as like nothing's being said in this broadcast either. You can't just use me looking at Reddit as stepping stone, but rather a signal that I don't actually talk about anything meaningful in the cast. You gotta watch parts of it, because usually I'll use Reddit, especially when we cover Reddit. I'll use it as a way of talking about current events. I usually cover current events, things that are happening in the community. Technology discussion usually happens. This clip did not include any technology discussion. New technology coming out, but could be markets too. Could be things that happen in real life. Sometimes just like talking about Christmas shopping, for instance, just things in general, things of interest in general. So this one in particular was 3 different things. Save, highlight, done. So that one's done. And luckily I haven't been streaming that much, so it's not like you missed that much. Like maybe 2 weeks worth of streams here. That's not that bad. Not really that bad. But anyways, you get that general idea. And then it should pop up in the videos. Video manager. And we look here at my highlights. Yeah, so this is where I started. I should have been doing this basically for the last 5 years I've been streaming, and I haven't been doing it. Because generally at the beginning of my stream I cover the podcast segments, so I'll usually talk about anything of interest currently going on in just the world, and generally pertaining to video games. But that one talks about anime. I do talk about anime on a rather frequent occasion during my stream, but you don't need to actually go through and look at like the actual video game portions and pick parts out of that you have to highlight, but just highlighting basically the first beginning part. And it becomes easier and easier, especially if you just watch the cast and you just happen to be listening to it or something. It'll be much easier because then you'll remember it. These aren't fresh in my mind, so I can't just pick these off the top of my head what just happened here with because this was over a month ago. No, a month ago. About a month ago. So it's actually more difficult for me to actually pick these out. You get the general gist. Gains. What gains? Had a question about my brother. Since tax season is coming, I was looking to upgrade my PC. Got a 7700K with 1060 and 16 gigs of RAM, but I think the graphics card is what I need. You got any ideas? Yes. In general, that's a pretty strong processor. It's a bit older. Everything is moving to hex core now. So 6-core processors in general are going to be mainstream. That is still
That's a 4-core processor because Intel did not go to hex cores besides Extreme Edition until recently with the Coffee Lake. So, but I wouldn't buy a processor right now. I would wait because this springtime AMD is releasing or announcing a new edition of processors, which is going to be the Zen 2 microarchitecture. So right now we had Zen, Zen Plus, and now Zen 2, which is the 1000 series, basically Ryzen, the 1000 series. The 2000 series, which is Zen 2, this is a code name for it, it's the architecture code name, and there's Zen Plus, and then Zen 2 is going to be the 3000 series. And what the 3000 series is going to be, according to rumors, is possibly a double bump in cores, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. So right now, Threadripper, you got to just, if you need another example, let me know too, or if you want me to basically do one so you don't need to do more of them. But you get the idea. And honestly, you don't need to finish them on a timely basis, considering a lot of my clips have just basically went into the nether of nothing. You like, as long as you get like, you know, a decent number of them, especially ones where I cover long periods of time, where I have a lot I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, if you got the gist of it, if you like, if that works for you, let me know. But yeah, like there isn't a time commitment on that. However, you know, if you do it right away, then you won't have 2 or a month worth of clips just waiting for you. Not that I would know about that, or it's deterred me from actually doing it in the first place. But you know, and honestly, like it doesn't normally take that long. It takes maybe about 10 minutes to look through a clip and figure out the topic matters and then post it. So I want to stick to Intel preferably. Fanboyism gets you nowhere in life, Merix, and I recommend based on what's the best. So, just keep in mind, Zen 2 is going to basically fuck Intel. The way it's working right now is not only does AMD generally have the best price performance ratio, it is also the fastest for the amount of money you're paying for multi-threaded applications and most single-threaded applications. And from what I've understand with Zen 2, which is coming out next year, it's going to be faster in single-threaded operations with a little bit that Intel's still clinging to, and there's going to be more cores, it's going to be better priced, and it's going to have better multi-threaded performance. So basically, it's just going to be all-around better compared to Intel's. So, something to keep in mind, like that's not coming out till next year, and according to leaks, which are possibly very much not true, it's going to be double cores. So even on the low end, you're going to get like 6 cores, and then for the mid range, it's going to go 12 or 10, 12, no 6, 12, and then 18 cores, 16 cores. So on the high end, for like a $300 chip, you're going to get 16 cores. It's going to be faster in all ways, shape, or form than Intel chips. It's going to use less energy, and it's going to be cheaper. Basically, Intel, they waited too long to actually go after things. But if you're looking about video cards right now, graphics cards, RTX is not worth it because no games use it, and you're going to turn it off anyways because of the heavy hit to performance if you care about your performance. It will be nice if you're talking specifically about the RTX features. If you just want the ray trace lighting, it'll probably only be very particular in games that are moody. So in horror games, it'll make things look really cool. Single player games where you don't really care about your frame rate, but otherwise, if you play first person shooters, you're going to turn RTX off every chance you get. Other than that, the 2000 series from NVIDIA was a letdown this year. It's very much overpriced for what it is. So the 1080 Ti was basically replaced with the 2080, and 2080 Ti is way too expensive for what it is. So if you're looking at the high end, you get a 2080, and 2070 basically is equivalent of a 1080. 2070 is equivalent of 1080. But your 1070 is about, what was it, 50% faster? Look really quick here. Need to go back a while for that. Generally, it depends on how much you want to spend. Yikes. $500 is the new $300. That's actually kind of true, unfortunately. 140 hertz monitor is still meta. 240 hertz, however, just getting an 144 hertz monitor is a big step up. But graphics cards wise, this is probably actually about on par, I would say. 2080 is basically the equivalent of a 1080 Ti, and it's about basically the same price point. Basically, there's almost no bump in performance compared to last-gen video cards, which is why it's kind of hard to recommend. 1060 is still relevant. It really depends on how much you want to spend, but unless you're willing to spend, like it shows here, like $500, you're probably not going to. You're going to get a side grade. Like, this is basically the equivalent of 1080, and 1080 is probably 80% faster than what you have, but it really depends on what you're doing with it. You're going to generally turn down all the graphics anyways, but if you don't have an 144 hertz monitor and you play first-person shooters, you really should get a 144 hertz monitor. And if you can afford it, a 240 hertz monitor, but 144 hertz monitor is a big step forward. You don't need G-Sync or FreeSync. However, it's a really nice thing to have if you can get it, and then obviously you have to get it based on what video card you have. So if you have an NVIDIA video card, you want to get G-Sync, and if you have an AMD video card, you get FreeSync. FreeSync in general is just better than G-Sync. However, it's cheaper too. However, NVIDIA being who they are, they don't allow you to use FreeSync with their video cards. Even though they're capable of using FreeSync, and AMD video cards are capable of using G-Sync, NVIDIA locks AMD out from using G-Sync, and NVIDIA refuses to support FreeSync. So, yeah, you're basically locked into whatever vendor you have as far as G-Sync or FreeSync goes. But in general, this is actually pretty spot on. So a 580 is faster than 1060, and they just released 590 just came out. Oh, I don't think, no, maybe they're shipping already. Pretty sure 590 is a little bit faster than a 580. They don't have an article for 590s. Kind of weird. Oh.
I'm still breathing, falling in love every evening, so we just gonna stay teenage dreamers. Born this way, I told my mother I grew up. What can I say? I'm still breathing, falling in love every evening. The world we on top of, thanks to my shorty and all the blunts that she docked up. Waking up late and we gon' crack up the champagne. Girlies is hating, but trust they won't do a damn thing. Holla that shorty.
I actually want to look at this. I'm gonna keep this open. Honestly, it depends on how much you want to spend. With that computer right there, I have 60 hertz is a beauty. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things where you have a bias towards something until you actually try something better. And some people actually can't see the difference between 60 hertz and 144 hertz. I 100% can. You can even see it on your desktop just simply by spinning your mouse around in circles and seeing how many mouse trails you see. The higher refresh rate your monitor, the more mouse trails you basically get out of your mouse as the monitor's trying to keep up with it. But yeah, 60 hertz, you want a 144 hertz monitor. That's pretty, more so than upgrading your graphics card. However, if you have a 1060, you have a 1060 already and you turn all your settings on low, 16 gigs of memory is more than enough. If you have a 1060 and you already have, you turn everything on low, it's going to be tough getting the frame rates up to a point where your monitor can actually use it well. You'll still get a benefit from having a 144 hertz monitor, you won't get as much if your frame rate does not reach the response refresh rate of the monitor. So 144 hertz, you want to have 144 plus FPS ideally. However, in often cases you won't be able to reach it, and G-Sync and FreeSync help when you're below your monitor refresh rate. So if you have a 144 hertz monitor, G-Sync and FreeSync will help. The bottom end of the range is different for both of them, but it's usually like 45 hertz to 144 hertz, or 165 hertz if you get like a 1440p monitor, or like I have a 240 hertz, so it goes anywhere from like 60 to 240 hertz when G-Sync works, which is like vertical sync, where it'll actually try to help remove tearing. Sometimes it works. Well, most of the time it works, but sometimes you'll still occasionally get tearing on the screen, but it looks a lot better. But generally speaking, you want to have a graphics card or a computer that can put out enough frame rate to hit the maximum of your monitor refresh rate. However, you'll still get a refresh even if you're at below 60 hertz. When your monitor refreshes, it'll always have the most up-to-date frame from your computer. So you do actually get a benefit from having a high refresh rate monitor, even if you're not at, like if you're only at like 70 hertz or something, you're still going to get a lot of benefit out of having a 144, 240 hertz monitor. Not nearly as much as if you had, you're producing 144 FPS or 200 FPS, or if you have a 240 hertz monitor, if you have 300 FPS or 340 FPS. But generally speaking, it's one of these things where you're not going to get the benefit from it unless you have the graphics card and the computer that's capable of putting out the frame rate for it. Most modern graphics cards can. So if we take a peek here, 1070. This is Battlefield 1 ultra quality. Like I said, people just keep things on low. They don't like. It's kind of weird how hardware review websites are like they give you benchmarks, and the people that want bleeding high frame rates aren't really the people that have settings on ultra. We have them on low, right? And even if I have everything on low on 1080 Ti compared to your 1060, and we aren't going to reach the same FPS. Regardless of our CPU, we aren't going to have the same FPS simply because I have a much beefier GPU and it processes things faster, regardless of the fact that everything's on low. Some people think if it's all on low, it doesn't matter what GPU you have or what CPU you have, and or it's all CPU bound, and that's not true at all. But unfortunately here, this is ultra quality, so you can't actually see what you're going to get with, like, let's say, 1080p on low settings. You look at this here, 1060, let's assume you have a 6 gig model right here. You're 85, and then 590 will boost you to 98, and then 1070. Vega 64 is basically the equivalent of 1080. So if we want to take this with a grain of salt, we can say that the Vega 64 is going to be equivalent of an 1080 or a 2070. So if you bought a 2070 at $500, it's going to get you almost double the FPS that you're currently getting in Battlefield 1. This is at ultra settings too. This is not at low settings, and so we don't know. And this is also the way Battlefield works. Is this is like an open FPS, and when they test stuff out, you don't always get the same repeatable experience. That's the problem with testing multiplayer games, is it's not always the same, fortunately. So it's very difficult to test stuff like this. Battlefield 1, very much like Battlefield 5, the performance you're going to get with Battlefield 5 or Battlefront 2. That's why I particularly looked at this. There's other games here. What's another particular one? Wolfenstein 2 is a first-person shooter. Lieben's highest quality once again. And even going to a 590, like, that was 280. 580, so you gain like 20% off of a 590 compared to a 580, and 580s are like 200, like 240. Higher, more expensive video cards, you definitely start to lose out on price-performance ratio. Top 3 anime out right now. All the anime out right now sucks. If you want personal opinion, 2017 really sucked for anime, dude. My personal opinion on this is, like, if you want my best watch list, scroll on to the bottom there. It's on the right side. It's recommended anime. On the right hand side there are my, not in particular order from top anime to least, my favorite to least favorite anime. Those are just generally all really good animes that I've watched over the years. They're all different categories too. They aren't all shonen. There's some that are seinen, some that are rom-coms. There's comedy in there.
Generally, it's seinen, mainly made for an older audience. So if what you're looking for is like a shonen, like Gurren Lagann or something, you might not find what you're looking for on there. But generally speaking, I watch pretty much any anime, and I put anime on that list that are definitely like cream of the crop as far as what's worth watching. All of them are good in their own way, but this year has been absolutely fucking disappointing for anime. Absolutely disgustingly disappointing this year. Yeah, none of the anime this year was that great. We covered this like a little bit ago, but yeah, nothing. Sword Art Online, I haven't watched this yet. The new version, the new Sword Art Online, I haven't watched this. Sevens aren't very. That's not a telling sign of something you have to watch. Last year, 2017, had a lot of really good anime. Made in Abyss, fucking amazing. There's also the the Mage Caster and his wife or something. Wife's Bride, the Mage's Bride. Mage's Bride, I think that's it. Mage Bride. Magus. That's what it was. Magus's Bride. This wasn't super, like, this isn't even in my list, but this is a pretty good anime from last year. Magus's Bride. Cute little story. It's more of a slice of life, but not really. She's like a slave, and he basically buys her. TLDR there is, he buys a slave, essentially, and they fall in love, and they become lovers. He's like some sort of weird-ass supernatural monster. Really good story. And then second half of the season came out this year. Wasn't as good, but this is probably, you could consider it an anime that came out this year, but not really. It's not, wasn't nearly as good as the first half. Made in Abyss, still waiting on that. This is a great story though. Yeah, this year just been a lot of really shitty anime. My Hero Academia is super fucking generic. After Naruto ended and Bleach has ended and Hunter x Hunter has ended, there hasn't really been a really good shonen that's been out. One Piece is still airing. One Piece is a piece of shit, but it's available. My Hero Academia is super fucking generic. The heroes in that season or in that series are fucking generic as shit. Super generic series. Like only a couple spots in that series that actually made me really kind of relate to the, not relate, but like feel for the character. Otherwise, it's just like One Punch Man, like quite literally One Punch Man with super generic protagonists and antagonists. Shonen, but at the end of the day, Goblin Slayer, a new one, came out this year. Not rated very well. That being said, from what I've heard and seen, I'll probably watch it. I generally don't watch series when they're airing currently, because I like waiting and binge watching them. But this is one of the ones I'll probably watch regardless of the fact that it's got a really poor rating. Same thing with Sword Art Online. What else did I watch this year? Just all the anime this year has just been really... Oh, I didn't watch the new Gundam series. I was supposed to do that, and I haven't done that yet. Oh, there's a new season of Attack on Titan. I watched this. This sucked. Yeah, that came out. W. Oh. They kept trying to milk the whole franchise thing, just by drawing it out, and it's turned into a season that's basically just filler. Also need to watch that. I haven't. I watched quite a few of the other Full Metal Panics. Yeah, this year for anime has just been really bad. It's just been, usually there's like 2 or 3 really good one to 3 really good animes that come out every year, and this year did not have one. Surprisingly, I don't think there's been a year where there hasn't been just one to 3 really usually 2 to 3 really good animes that come out, and this year didn't have any.
all been really kind of poop. Steins Gate Zero came out. I watched that. I'm about halfway through with that. I haven't I haven't finished watching it yet. I stopped. It got boring. The original Steins Gate was really good. This Steins Gate, kind of because you know what's happening in the series already. Just in general, is just not really that great. They tried, like, what they try to do is they like try to do a rerun basically of the original series and do the same thing over again to get the same kind of reaction out of people, and then at the end of the day it doesn't yield the same kind of reaction because it's basically just the same shit again. It's the same shit again. Yeah, the new Gundam, I haven't finished watching that. For all animes I'm supposed to watch that I haven't. Oh, I wanted to watch this as well. Original Legend of the Stars was good. That came out in the 80s. Very good. One of the few animes that I recommend actually watching if you handle watching old anime. Extremely good story. Yeah, I don't even watch Lupin. Good thing no anime or no hentai was sitting there. Good. Walking meat. I have no idea. How I feel about mozzarella. I feel pity when I see someone consuming fake mozzarella, but they say it tastes amazing. Peasants. Oh, you're talking about let's watch a documentary. You must be someone that watches my channel. We talked about, I think, mozzarella like 2 streams ago, where there's this place in mozzarella? No, Parmesan. Parmesan. A particular place in Italy that makes real Parmesan, and if it's not Parmigiano, like it's actually the place is called like Parmigiano or something like that. And if you don't try real authentic Parmesan, it's not real Parmesan, and they're just a bunch of fakers. Isn't true. There's actually a difference between 144 Hz monitors and 60 Hz monitors, though. Yeah, this year for anime just been really kind of shitty. If you're looking for recommendations, I haven't really even been into anime this year. Oh, Violet Evergarden. I watched this. This was pretty fucking terrible. A lot of people were all over it because it's a Netflix series. It wasn't really that good. It was just a bunch of random shit. It was like a slice of life anime with a really horrible story. I didn't really understand why people like this anime so much, because it was really fucking bad. I watched it. Well, not really bad. It's like, it says this is an 8. This is not an 8. This is probably like a 7, 7.3. It wasn't really anything. The story is just all over the fucking place constantly. I completely forgot that anime came out this year. Not impressed. For all the hubbub I heard about it, not impressed at all. There's like these weird animes that come out of China that are highly regarded, and they just, I assume just based on the title. Like, what was the one? There's like a video game one that came out of China, and there's like people are all up. It's basically like watching someone type his fingers on a keyboard constantly and having like a bajillion APM, and like all the girls are swooning over him and stuff like that. And it's just like, I can see the demographic that it's marketed towards, but yeah, I still haven't watched this yet. I still need to, the origin story. But it just, yeah, just does it for some people, just having that demographic and having, oh my god, it's a gamer, guys. Did you see it? There's a fucking gamer in this anime. You know, that sort of thing. Where it just gets them all excited because they can relate to the character because they do what they do. Yeah, no. That doesn't make a series good. This is the one. Yeah, this is the fucking one. This is what's the King's Avatar. This is what I was just talking about. Yeah, this is the fucking Chinese series. Super fucking generic. Basically, just jerks off anyone that plays video games. No. Nope. Generally don't watch movies. Movies in general, for if they follow the TV series, are just made for fans and they kind of fill in a little bit of blanks. But that generally means that the ratings are not only going to be skewed, but the story just isn't going to be that great. TV series, not just anime, but also live action, you have so many more episodes to cover basics that you need to get down, like character development, that you can't do in a movie because there's just not enough time. There's not enough time to do what you need to. We made some nice Tinder catches lately. I got some matches. They're all too young though. Like 19. Seems like all the I grew up 10 years too soon, guys. Like all the cool chicks are like younger. Sorry. Like stuff like actually playing video games and kind of developing kind of like guys do is something that's relatively a recent occurrence. Seen a lot of really cool younger chicks, but I think that's just because they're starting to fit the demographic. We're using that word again, like trying to fit in with everyone. Get people that play games. We had a LAN club at my high school, and there wasn't a single female in it. Sorry. Probably be different nowadays, but I think in our circle, even outside of the LAN club, in our circle of friends, with all the geeks, there's maybe one chick, and she was not attractive. So, other than that, but that was like 15 years ago. That was a long time ago. I'm longer than that. I'm 34 right now. High school for me would have been 19 years ago. It's me, Lid, remember? Why'd you change your name? Are you trying to throw me off? That would make sense, by the way. You're a fucking weirdo. Must have got banned. Talking to too many boob streamers. Saying mean things in their stream. This one, I think, yeah, I watched this one. This wasn't really that great. It's about like a Yakuza that just finds a random chick that is also psychic. Like slice. The thing they like doing now, guys, for anime is they like having slice of life anime, and then throwing a twist ball in there, just throwing a twister. Having a curveball, twist ball, a curveball in there, and like in this anime, it's basically slice of life with Yakuza and a girl that's psychic. Basically, all it is just a love story. I guess it changes it up. It makes it a little bit different. Watch that one too. Wasn't really impressed. Watch this. Another Cooking Wars. Yay, the series continues. Not watch this one. This is kind of on my radar. It's kind of tough to find this, to be perfectly honest. I've looked for it. It's very, very difficult to find this anime. I think it's because it kind of wasn't on anyone's radar and just no one really dubbed it. Boxing anime, only it's a cyborg. New 7 Deadly Sins, or 11 Deadly Sins? There's been a few of these. They're very well animated, by the way. 7 Deadly Sins. Very, very well animated. If you're looking for shonen, extremely well animated series. Lots of eye candy. Also, actual eye candy. Fan service. Lots of fan service. Watch this one. I don't know why I miss it though. You forgot your password, didn't you? You know you can get an email sent to you. You can reset your password. Watch that. This is a movie. My to watch list. Speaking of which, it's still. I finished. What did I just finished watching? I just finished watching last night. Started watching Daredevil, the third season. Not a big fan of Daredevil at all. I think it's actually a pretty shitty series. First season, the villain was basically the only reason to watch it. Second season was the Punisher season and wasn't honestly that great. Now we're in the third season, and I'm not really sure. The only reason I'm watching is because I heard some people say it's good on Twitch, which they say a lot of things are good on Twitch. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. Just finished watching The Walking Dead too, the current season of The Walking Dead, where they have basically a new cast, new main characters that are taken over, which actually wasn't that horrible. Honestly. Like, The Walking Dead has never really been, honestly, that great. It's not like Game of Thrones sort of shit. I don't know what people expected about it and why they say, like, the newer seasons are horrible. They've always just kind of been not really that great. And it's kind of been whatever. Current season, probably about the same as the last seasons. They changed up the cast, so that makes things a little bit more palatable, I guess, as far as things feeling fresh and new. But otherwise, kind of just more of the same. There was kind of a cool little side story, and it's weird. Like, Walking Dead basically devolved into, instead of being like a zombie anime, or zombie TV series, basically just a drama. Horror drama. With occasionally people falling over and tripping over an extension cord, and slowly crawling back while a zombie crawls on top of them and gnaws their face off. It's like trying to figure out what people are going to trip on and then not be able to run away from. But honestly, the current Walking Dead season, I don't know. They changed it up. It's new, it's fresh, but it's still basically the same thing. Like the whole thing about like zombie series, one of the things that makes them cool is kind of like the last stands for humanity sort of stuff. And Walking Dead doesn't really have that anymore. And it's like Last Stand isn't about like people just tripping over and not being able to walk away. It's about being cornered and unable, being helpless. And there isn't really a case where people are helpless. They're helpless because they're idiots. That's not really the same thing as being like actually helpless. It doesn't really feel like the zombies really ever pose a threat anymore, and they kind of do in the current season. But I know what's causing it, so they don't really. They aren't really a threat anymore. Like, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like a last stand by a government organization or something, or you have a stronghold which eventually gets overrun and falls or something. But it's not really. With Walking Dead, it's mainly about like, it's like drama, slice of life, living in the zombie apocalypse sort of shit. And that's honestly why it's not really that interesting anymore. If you watch Fear the Walking Dead, you have to get past the first couple seasons, which are fucking terrible. With Fear the Walking Dead, I'd actually kind of say in its current form is a little bit better than current The Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead is, they kind of went, at the last season, they went, nomad with it, where they basically just move around a lot. So they don't really have a home, so to speak. And honestly, I think it kind of works out for them. Morgan is in the series now, too. So he moved from the current Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead. And he's a very veteran actor, so he's actually really good. But yeah, Fear the Walking Dead is actually a little bit more unique because it actually kind of represents like just average people in the apocalypse trying to get by, rather than just like the war, the war with the overarching villain reaching his fingers over the top like this, sort of thing. I don't know. There are better series out there than The Walking Dead, but that's probably one of the most recent ones I watched is the new season of The Walking Dead. I also caught up with The Good Place, which is kind of if you're just looking for something to watch. See, what did I just finish watching before? I'm currently watching the current season of Daredevil. Just finished watching. Obviously not that great if I don't really remember. Honestly, not that great if I don't remember what's going on here. Although that's kind of, like, I'm kind of off today. I slept too much. Let's see. Gifted is still airing. Hasn't finished airing yet. Narcos! Oh, no, actually, it was pretty good. Narcos, if you guys haven't watched it, it's kind of like a docudrama, where they kind of throw real-life events into things to help write the story, but they take their own liberties with the storytelling. Narcos. Definitely watch Narcos. It's pretty good. And the new one is Narcos New Mexico, which is about the series drug happenings in Mexico. Narcos, if you don't know what it is about drug trading, drug trafficking in general, and DEA agents who try to stop it. Basically, a bunch of things you haven't heard about down south in like South America and Central America, I guess. I don't know if like is. No, I don't think there's a Central America. South America and North America. Central America. No, Central America is one. Yeah, it's like South America and Central America and drug trafficking that happens down there. Yeah, down here. Basically the parts of the third world countries and then Central. I thought Central includes Mexico, but apparently it doesn't. Anyways, stuff that happens basically down here. Pretty cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Highly recommend watching it if you're just looking for something to watch. It is drama, but it also has some action thrown in with too. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'd recommend watching that. There's all these really cool places in the world that you'd want to go visit, but if you ever visited them, you basically need a bodyguard. Yeah. Like, if you look too much out of place, when you don't look rough enough, you need, like, a bodyguard so you don't get your kidneys stolen. A guide / bodyguard. Like, I'd love to go visit Brazil. Rainforest down there, too. Like, some of the places down south are just fucking scary. Like, visiting Europe's one thing. Visiting, like, Africa or South America or even Central America or Mexico, very scary. Mexico, although it's kind of, if you stay in the touristy areas, you'll be fine. However, really, really fucking, some places down there, like, scary. Africa over on, even Development Index. Yeah, even parts of Europe. It's mainly when you get to the east over by Russia. Statistic Composite Index of Life Expectancy, Education, and Per Capita Income Indicators, which are used to rank countries into 4 tiers of human development. Country scores higher HDI when the lifespan is higher, the education level is higher, and the GDP per capita, basically how much they make, is higher. It's developed by the Indian Nobel Prize winner Armstrong, Pakistani economist. This includes like a quality of life index into one that includes things like life expectancy and education. So spot on too. So definitely still better than Africa. Africa's scary. Best place in Africa to go visit is like South Africa. What is this? Egypt's over here. What's the country? This can't be. Yeah, maybe this is Egypt. That's not Egypt. This is Egypt. Which basically the only reason that's so green is because of tourism. Felt impulsive, so you deleted it. Oh. You shouldn't own a gun ever. That's not Egypt, that's Algeria. Good. Didn't expect that, and it's India, and only parts of India. And it's not, This is kind of weird because this is the way this is broken up. It's probably based on averages, and there's just some really, really, really rich people in India, and India has huge, huge disparity between like just normal people and like the ultra rich people in India. Saudi Arabia. That's Saudi Arabia. Never mind. Yeah. Ugh. That's scary. Mix the two up. Yeah. Saudi Arabia, probably worse off than India, though. But apparently Saudi Arabia has... There used to be someone who watched my stream from Saudi Arabia, and he said they have universal healthcare over there. And, like, just everyone gets healthcare. Because there's a bunch of really, really, really rich people over here that offset this a lot. India, China, Russia. Huh. Russia's better off than China. I wouldn't believe that. And obviously, South Korea, Australia. There's just some places that are just like the US, like Canada and Australia. They're very US-y. When we drove... I'd believe this too. When we drove up to Germany, Germany felt like I was in the US, to be perfectly honest, only they spoke German. Not even joking. People there looked awfully US-ish, only they had beer guts instead of just bellies. Yeah, like instead of being just like rotund like this, they just had like the little beer gut. If you guys have ever seen that, it definitely beer gut looks different than like a normal gut, like just by being like fat. But yeah, when I was in Germany, it just basically I felt like I was in the U.S. basically, except they spoke German. Over in Europe, I believe this. I'd say France was on par with Italy. We were in both those countries. They felt very similar. Never made it up here. Surprising that this is the way it is. Don't really have much up here. It's like the upper portion of Canada. It's all snowy. There's almost nothing there. Data unavailable. Yeah. If data's unavailable, that means it's probably the worst of the bunch. Good stuff, guys. Yeah. But Costa Rica is... There's Puerto Rico, that's one I was thinking of, but where's Costa Rica? Well, it's down here. Cuba. Even smaller. Yeah. Highway that connects all the islands down there. Stuff like this would never get built, guys. You know that? Like this highway would never have been built nowadays. Called Island Highway. A 113-mile highway carrying U.S. Route 1 through Florida Keys. Large parts are built on former right-of-way. Overseas Railroad, the West Key West Extension, Florida Coast Railway. In 1912. $1950. So it used to be. It's even ridiculous that they made a railroad in 1912 and it was destroyed in 1935. $1928 present. Yeah, there's no way something like this would get built nowadays. Absolutely no way. Everyone would be like, that's too expensive. Only a handful of people are going to actually use it. Why would we ever do this? We literally have like a highway, guys. We have a highway in the U.S. that connects tiny little islands. Did you guys even know this is down here? Tiny little islands out south of Florida. Just like a bunch of islands down here connects everything together. You can travel on it. It's like one of the worst places to ever travel on. Simply because like if it's too windy and rainy, there's like literally like waves that crash over the top of the highway itself. But that's fucking ridiculous. Something like this is really, really expensive, and is really expensive to keep up. Like, just something super specialized like this. Like, we'd never get something like this built anymore. This just would not exist. Wham Boom attracted real estate interests who sought vehicular access to Upper Keys for thousands of acres of undeveloped land. Yeah, this is prime for people that want like a nice house in the middle of nowhere. I mean, schnitzels and worse make the belly rotund. True story. The land boom attracted a state interest who sought vehicular access keys, thousands of undeveloped land. Completion of railroad further proved a highway through the Keys was feasible. You'd build it underground for lulz, yeah, and then charge us all for it. Yeah. Why would you want social things like fucking highways? That's a waste of money. I want cheaper taxes. Bridges were replaced with more modern bridges in the 1980s. That's the original highway. They use a mile marker as their address. Decimal places. They also add which side of the highway they're on with another or 4. Is air station. Memorial Park. Have I ever driven down there? No. Have you ever driven down there? I haven't driven down there. There's a lot of places in the U.S. I've never driven before. The U.S. is a big place. The U.S. is like 2 Europes put together. Or just like Canada, you know, if you actually drove in like the northern 90% of it, excuse me. No one actually lives in. Except for some Inuit. and polar bears. Like 90% of the population in Canada lives in like the lower 10% of the actual country. Like all of Canada is basically like right here, like that. Basically, right where there isn't snow. Especially down here. Big one is Toronto, Quebec. Like everything is like this. The closer you are to the border, the more likely there's actually people. And the roads just disappear. And then somehow we have this state attached to us called Alaska. And there's really nothing up here except for oil. That's really the only reason that there's anything up here is because of oil. Pretty sure it's oil. Well, coal isn't up north. Coal is down south, and we don't mine it. Mine oil. There. There was actually talk at one point to connect this with the bridge to Russia. Never did it. Lots of oil up in Alaska. For nothing else. Alaska. Alaska. There is currently 700,000 people living in Alaska. That's a lot of people. There's a state with less people. Alaska. States. What? Well, counts as one. Columbia, which is DC. Vermont and Wyoming. more habitable, but less people living there. And that kind of says something about their states. Literally, people would rather live in a snowy coffin than live in Wyoming or Vermont. Wisconsin's pretty far up. 20th. There's us, guys. Look at us. Oh, Minnesota's pretty close. Minnesota and Wisconsin are like brother states. Literally are. They're very, very, very similar to each other. Even the rivalry between the Packers and the Vikings is just totally camaraderie. It's just brotherly love, even if people don't take it that way. Very, very close together. Very, very similar states. How they do things. Well, generally, until we had a Republican governor up until last election. Generally, they were before we got a Republican governor, and probably will go back to being very similar to each other now that we have a Demo governor again. Lots of people in Cali. So, by the way, guys, if you don't know, this is why, this is the supposed reason that the U.S. has an electoral college. By the way, the U.S. votes are not determined by popular vote. Like who elects the president is not determined by popular vote. It's determined by an electoral college. So basically, each state has a certain number of seats in the electoral college, and each seat. They have it on here? No, this is for House. And basically each electoral, like each representative will vote for the state. So it's possible, regardless of how the state votes or how multiple states vote or the general population votes, it's entirely possible that you can lose the electoral college and still keep the popular vote. For instance, Hillary with Trump was elected by the electoral college, or not Hillary. Trump was elected by the Electoral College, even though Hillary won the popular vote in the last election. The whole reason that they say they have Electoral College, which I think is complete bullshit nowadays, is because some states have basically no one living in them, but they want to be represented in like the actual election, which doesn't actually make sense. You can say that certain parts of the country have different interests, which is entirely true, depending on where they live and what's going on. And if there's a giant population, let's say in California, you know, that completely dwarfs like Wisconsin. Funny, completely dwarfs, you know, Wisconsin. They have like what is that? 8 times more people. Times more people. It's like 6 times more people than us. Even though they have 6 times more people, like a person's generally a person in the U.S. and I don't really like. I understand that different parts of the country are going to have different views, which is entirely true, but it really doesn't matter that much. Like something like this, like my vote in Wisconsin shouldn't be worth more than someone's vote in California. It doesn't feel that way when you're in a republic, you know, a republic, and we aren't necessarily a true democracy. We're a republic in the U.S. It still does not make sense that like that we're still using electoral college in general. Electoral college. Oh, there's a map. Let's try a map. I believe this shows the number of votes each state gets. Yeah, which doesn't even make sense, because, I mean, look, California has 55, and then Wisconsin has 10. 10? It still doesn't even make sense, because it's relatively proportional to the number of people in the U.S., so... Why do electoral colleges even exist? I don't fucking know. No, I don't think anyone actually knows. Each state's number of electors is equal to the combined total of the state's membership in the Senate and House of Representatives. Currently, there are 100 senators and 435 representatives. Additionally, the 23rd Amendment provides that the District of Columbia is entitled to a number of electors no greater than that of the least populous state. Yeah, so it doesn't even fucking make sense. It's like the amount of like people like for the House of Representatives and the Senate is generally determined by your population, relatively speaking, by your population. Electoral college is a system of ongoing debate, with some defending and others calling for its abolishment. Fuck. Abolition. That was right.
Abolition.
Abolition. Just almost never use this word. Yeah, you think about slavery when you think about this. Abolition. Have you driven down the whole entirety of Route 66? No, actually when I drove down south and I came back up a couple different times, we never actually drove on the entirety of Route 66 because it's basically just a giant desert highway. And it's boring, so, not really. Yeah, like we I could have went down Route 66, but honestly, there's nothing on it in a lot of places. It's iconic as a highway, but generally speaking, there isn't a lot of places, and the places that are there are just all touristy, so, it's honestly not really worth going and seeing, to be perfectly honest. Or as Electoral College argued that it's fundamental to American federalism. That's bullshit. It requires candidates to appeal to voters outside of large cities, increase the political influence of small states, discourages excessive growth of political parties. That's absolute bullshit, and preserves a two-party system. There shouldn't be a two-party system, and makes the electoral outcome appear more legitimate than that of a nationwide popular vote. What? Requires candidates to appeal to voters outside of large cities. That is true. However, it shouldn't matter because someone in a city is still a vote regardless of who they are. Yeah, no, this is like the whole reason that the Electoral College has been around is because it was developed as a system that would take into account the not rights, but word for that, ideology. They take into account the needs of people who might not otherwise be able to represent themselves and make an informed decision. And it's fucking stupid. Like back in the day, if you can remember, like not remember, but if you can, you think about it a bit, like back in the day, like in the, like 1700s and 1800s, people just bodunk Farmer John Smith or Bob Joe the farmer in Idaho somewhere, who doesn't really know what he wants, but you have someone on a kind of a local level that knows what he wants and can actually talk about what the person needs. Now everything's fucking connected, interconnected. There's no reason to have an electoral college anymore. I've actually talked about this a lot of times. Basically every time a political election comes up, I talk about this because it's really fucking stupid. Opponents of Electoral College argue that it can result in a person becoming president even though an opponent got more votes, which has happened in 2 out of the last 5 presidential elections. That's a lot, considering it's only happened like 8 times in the history of the U.S. 2 out of the 5 last elections have been popular vote not winning compared to the electoral vote. And focus their campaigning on disproportionately few swing states. They do that while ignoring most areas of the country. Yes, that's entirely true. And an allocation of electoral college votes gives citizens in less populated rural states as much as 4 times the voting power as those in more populous urban states. And that's also true. Polls since 1967 have shown that the majority of Americans favor president and vice president being elected by nationwide popular vote instead of electoral college. That is also true. Honestly, like, you shouldn't have to run with a candidate either. Like, vice president election should be different than the presidential election. They shouldn't be forced to forced into the job together. You shouldn't have to pick a pair, because there's some people that are really good like presidential candidates and then have really shitty vice president candidates, and some people don't vote to the president because of the vice president. That's the way it is. There's a lot of things in the U.S. that could change, and this is one of them, guys. Electoral college is dumb. Drive her up to your friend's car and ride skateboard down the highway for something to do. Yeah, no, that's all right. I think you'd have problems if you fell off. That being said, we talked before about when I visited Europe and how the Autobahn, there are really some places in the country that should just have an unlimited speed limit, and like if you ever drive down south in some of those desert highways, or even to the west of Wisconsin, like, in Montana or something, where it's just a giant straight strip of land, you should definitely be able to drive like 100 on there or something. That's something you should be able to do. It should be legal. 100, 140, something like that. Alrighty, guys. So we had a learning session tonight.